Hello, welcome back to Zoe Deschanel of Nonsense. This is the £85,000 Audi e-tron 55 Quattro. Here's a number of things you need to know about it. I'm not sure what that number is yet because I haven't thought of them. It is an electric car, which means you have to charge it. Which is, these days, as simple as doing this. Yes, it is an electric car with a 95 kilowatt hour battery, and it can fast charge up to 150 kilowatts. And yeah, that should be good for 235 miles of range, though this one seems to get about 180, 190 miles of range, which is all right. Look, it's charging. If I press this button, you can see it's charging at 131 miles an hour. This is only a 50 kilowatt charger and I'm getting 49 kilowatts. But yeah, there's a charging port down there for your CCS connector and another one down there for just your normal Type 2 or whatever it's called, the smaller one. But yeah, charging it is easy. You can choose to spec your Audi e-tron with either real door mirrors or these virtual mirrors, which is just a camera pointing backwards. And there are pros and cons, let's be fair, there are pros and cons. So I have to reverse out of my road every day and I don't think you can judge the width of the car quite as naturally as using proper mirrors. I don't like the fact that you have to adjust them by touching them, so in bright sunlight that is smeared with fingerprints. You adjust the other side by using this, look. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's a bit fiddly when you're on the move. So yeah, they're the negatives, and it takes a while to get used to looking down there, not up there. Positives, they do really reduce wind noise. I get barely any wind noise from this at kind of 70, 80 miles an hour. And I cruised my way to Essex the other day, which was about 120 mile round trip. And it was so refreshing, not having any wind noise really in the cabin at all. It's so peaceful and quiet in here. I was very refreshed despite having two screaming kids in the car. So yeah, there are benefits, but I would probably say the negatives outweigh them, so I would just get normal mirrors. But that is a choice, at least. One thing that I've not seen many people talk about is how pleasingly thin the steering wheel is. It feels like a really old school saloon kind of wheel. It's quite nice. 4 spokes, this is all cold metal, lovely to touch. The gear shift paddles, you might be thinking, what do they do? Well, it's an electric car, so you click the -1 as you're coming up to roundabout and it increases the level of motor regeneration, so you can slow down without using the brake pedal, and then I guess the +1 just cancels that as you're doing it. What I would say is when you're driving in auto mode, of the driving modes, which you adjust, move my crap down here, there's a huge list of driving modes. I've only really used efficiency and auto and dynamic briefly. There's more down there as an individual as well. In auto mode, the car can see other cars and roundabouts, and that actually means it feels like you've got adaptive cruise control on, because it will slow you down for roundabouts and other cars slowing down without you having to touch the brake pedal. And it feels quite natural in a way. It took me a while to realise it was doing it, and I'm like, I've not used the brakes in ages, because the car just adjusts its level of regeneration intelligently for the road ahead. So yes, I really like that, although you might not, you might think it's a bit weird, and if you don't like adaptive cruise, you'll probably feel a bit out of control. Infotainment on the Audi e-tron is handled by these twin screens. There's one up there and one down there. That usually does the aircon controls and everything else, but it also turns into a keyboard or a touchpad when you want to put an address in or something like that. So you just go H-E-L. So you just do that. You can get a physical keyboard up, but physical, I mean a QWERTY keyboard, but you can't do that when you're on the move, which is really annoying because I find that less distracting than trying to blindly scribble while on the move. So yeah, I'd give this infotainment system actually an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good despite being entirely a touchscreen. It's got Apple CarPlay wirelessly and all that kind of stuff, and a million different menus, apps, news, weather, all that kind of nonsense. It's all right. It's all right. It's very sharp and it gives you haptic feedback when you touch it. I think it's the same as in the A8 and everything else. Don't know if you heard that, but every time you start and stop the e-tron, as in turn the ignition on, off and on, it basically plays the start of Michael Jackson's Earth song. At least that's what I think it's doing. You know, the one with the weird video of the tusks go back into the elephant's head and it's all a bit weird, and then he probably cuddles a teddy bear. Because these little camera mirrors are so small, they reduce the overall car's coefficient of drag from 0.28 to 0.27. Isn't that really exciting? So it makes it more efficient if you choose these. It's not very interesting. I do promise I'm not doing all of this video in a petrol station, but most of it. And indeed, I'm going to show you the 660 litre boot, which is actually really quite big. If you can see it, there we go. You can fit several small corpses in there, and under the boot floor there is quite a big well. There's no spare wheel, there's some charging cables and other guff. Pretty big, pretty useful. And you can fold the rear seats down using those as usual. It's not that deep though, not that way. Right. More stuff. Back seat space is really, really good. Loads of headroom, loads of knee room, and unlike some electric cars, you can fit your feet under the seat in front of you. Very good. This is what's under the bonnet. There's a storage space, which isn't very deep, and it's got, well, charging cables and stuff in it. There we go. Not very deep, not massively useful, but the charging cables fit in it quite nicely. Boom. One thing you need to know about the e-tron is the gear knob is this weird thing that you flick forwards and backwards and then you drive it. It's very easy. Another thing you need to know about the e-tron is it's not massively fast. Yeah, 0 to 62 takes 5.7 seconds. It's not hugely quick, it's not meant to be. There's an S version if you want that. Another thing you need to know is that it's 408 horsepower, 664 newton meters of torque, and it weighs 2.5 tons. It's bloody heavy. It's heavier than a Tesla Model X, which is about the size of a planet. So yeah, that's the thing. Because this is Audi's first attempt, it's always going to be lumbered with slightly outdated battery technology, so it's heavy. That's some more things you need to know. Quietness is something that you should also know. It's very quiet in here. Even at motorway speeds, it's a very relaxed, hushed place to be. It's incredible, actually. It's really quite pleasant. That was another thing you need to know. It doesn't handle very sportily. Would you expect it to with that weight? No. So yeah. You can't throw it about like a sports car. It doesn't want to be thrown about like a sports car because it's not a sports car. It's a heavy electric SUV. One of the e-tron's driving modes is efficiency, which obviously does everything in its power to eke out every last drop of electric juice in the car. However, it makes the throttle so unresponsive that it's left me dawdling in the middle of roundabouts trying to nip into gaps, to the point where it's almost dangerous. So you have to switch it into auto or dynamic if you realize that's going to possibly happen. But otherwise, I've kind of left it in auto mode, which does the thing where it brakes for you and slows down automatically when there's cars and roundabouts and junctions and things. It's very clever. So those were the things that you really need to know about the Audi e-tron. Is it any good though? Well, yeah, it's okay. It's very heavy, it's quite expensive. It can't do a huge amount of miles to a charge, but this is kind of Audi's first go at the whole electric car thing from a year and a half ago, whenever it came out. It feels very plush inside. It's very comfortable, it's very quiet. Some of the tech, like these mirrors, is a little bit dubious, but overall, it's a solid 7 out of 10 sort of car. And like I said, Audi are only going to get better at this sort of thing. So in a year or two's time, we'll revisit this and see what it becomes. And obviously there's the e-tron GT as well, which is basically a Porsche Taycan underneath. And that's apparently very, very good. So anyway, there we go. Very quick video. Hopefully you've learned something about the Audi e-tron Quattro. Call me a knob in the comments. Hit like, comment, subscribe, bells, all of that stuff. And I'll see you next time. Not in my dogging layby, which I haven't used for a very long time. And there is actually literally a gutted pigeon over there. Lovely. It's not actually a pigeon, I think it's a kestrel. I should probably tell someone about that, shouldn't I?